Some movies are highbrow, some movies are lowbrow.
Welcome to Highbrow Lowbrow. I'm Cooper Gegan.
And I'm Josh Kirschenbaum.
Every week we pick a theme and then we pick two movies that fit that theme, one highbrow and one lowbrow. This week the theme is
Asteroids.
Asteroids. They're big. They're in space. They're coming for the Earth. You know them. You probably don't love them.
Yeah, even if you love specific asteroid movies, you're probably not a fan of asteroid movies like as a topic. There's probably not
or of asteroids, the object.
Right, that's true. I mean, we don't know. Well, maybe. I mean, there's like space people. Who
There's people who are just rooting for the world to end.
Well, there's people who are like really into like serial killers and true crime, like too many now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of one of those people. I'm less into serial killers than I am into cults.
Oh yeah, so like maybe there's that, but for asteroids, maybe there's people who are just like would wish an asteroid would come to wipe us all out, but not in like a Twitter nihilistic way, but in like a serial killery way.
Okay, cool. Although I don't think true crime fans are hoping to get killed by a serial killer.
I think I wouldn't know. I feel like I'm just like,
you don't like the new true crime trend? I do feel like there's a lot of people kind of hopping on the bandwagon there.
I think like 5 years ago was like, I think that was when The Jinx came out, and I watched that and I was like, all right, that was good. And I was like done. I'm glad the true crime thing happened. I'm ready to move on. And we as society said, no, Josh. We were just beginning.
Yeah, I think My Favorite Murder is doing a lot to keep that going. That's a very popular podcast.
Oh, yeah. And then you got like, I mean, there's a new Hulu series, there's a new Netflix thing. I feel like every week there's like a new, like, oh, did you know about the Chesapeake hat murderer?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, but I'm sure you've got 10 episodes of it.
Although I guess those have kind of always been a thing. I mean, there was like
true.
48 Hours before that. That's true crime, right?
Yeah, and you got like, I mean, it's always been on like True TV or like ID or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
there's those.
It's been
Snapped or whatever.
Yeah, there's all these like kind of like not premiered. It's really just that the fancy people paid attention to it now.
Yeah, and yeah, it's that now there's kind of high production value, and then also kind of podcasts have added to it a lot.
That's true. Have we mentioned which movies we're doing? We
mentioned Asteroids.
We mentioned Asteroid. Can you guess at home? We'll give you a second to guess.
It's Deep Impact, right?
It's not. It's
oh
you
shit!
about
I watched Deep Impact twice.
That's twice.
Yeah.
Is it highbrow and lowbrow?
Yeah.
It's
I
not a debate.
I haven't
episode.
seen Deep Impact since theaters. I saw it as a kid.
On the highbrow side, we've got Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up.
And on the lowbrow side, we've got
Armageddon.
Quick plots, right? These are pretty basic.
I mean, the plot is that there's a big ass asteroid coming for Earth.
Right.
Do they both say they're about the size of Texas?
I think so. But
Yeah.
it feels like in Don't Look Up, it's a reference to Armageddon because Armageddon makes such a meal out of saying it's like the size of Texas.
It actually is a good scene when they do that because they're trying to do it in terms of math, and he just says it's the size of Texas.
But on that point, I think that Armageddon, it has such little expectations for its audience. Anytime any person says anything remotely scientific, there's a manlier character in the scene to say, in English, damn it. And like, for basic, like, show the firecracker scene where they explain we have to dig inside the asteroid to blow it from the outside.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You got to dumb it down. But like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they have to explain, like, oh, do we call it a planet killer? Like, what's that? It's like
it kills planets.
Yeah, you can like intuit certain
Although
things.
I do feel like Armageddon weirdly does seem to have a good amount of respect for experts.
No, I would say sometimes, but only if those experts are cool and manly. I mean, there's a lot of scenes of them saying the president's advisors are wrong, or like it's a lot of scenes of like. I mean,
they definitely have. There's a common theme of the president's advisors being kind of yes men and not knowing what they're doing, which it happens in Don't Look Up too. We should probably talk about the plots of these movies.
Yeah, okay. So Don't Look Up is
two astronomers. They're were at the University of Michigan.
Yeah, I think Michigan State.
Michigan State, right? That's a big one you can't mix up.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
they get really mad about that.
It's like UPenn and Penn State.
Yeah, or Virginia Tech, and pretty much anytime there's two colleges in a state that have the same name, you don't want to mess them up.
You think they would like each other because they have a lot in common, but they hate each other.
Oh, with such unbelievable passion.
So the Spartan, because they mentioned that they're the Spartans, so
right?
It's Michigan State.
I think so. Yes. I don't follow
my ex-girlfriend is going to be so mad at me. She went to University of Michigan. I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, it's Leo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, the astronomers. They see a big rocket, a big asteroid. This is not a rockets episode. This is the asteroids episode.
Right.
Heading towards Earth, and they try to warn people, and people don't really listen. There's political stuff. It's all this big Doctor Strangelove satire of how people. It's a big metaphor for climate change. There's the president who's like, let's not do it now.
You think it's for climate change?
I mean, it is explicitly said by the filmmakers that it's.
Oh, really? I thought it was more for COVID. But
no, it was filmed before COVID.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So apparently that's a fun thing that's going on right now is a lot of people think it was like this brilliant like Hollywood just churned this out so quickly, but really it was a climate change thing that like Adam McKay had been thinking about for years.
Because people don't react that differently to all sorts of different scientific crises.
So Asteroid, Armageddon.
Armageddon is
what's the plot of Armageddon?
Oh God, here we go. An asteroid the size of Texas is coming for America. We hire a bunch of oil drillers to drill into it and set off a nuke in it.
Right. And that's my big point I want to make. The reason I think this movie does not have respect for science or experts is because rather than train the experts how to drill, they train a bunch of like rough and tumble, like I may not know all the stuff, but I'm smart. Like,
well, I would disagree with you there because they are experts in drilling.
Oh, that is true.
So they're respecting the expertise of drilling.
That is true. I think more broadly, it's this, and I don't say this pejoratively, it's like very good like red state filmmaking where like it's like, common sense and like people who do dirty jobs are always the right and like the dumb suits in Washington and the government are like usually wrong. I think it's like very effective at doing that. But like I don't know. A point in my favor. Those two two scientists who are constantly like giving like bad news to Billy Bob Thornton in this movie. Mm-hmm. Their actual names in the credits are Dr. Nerd and Dr. Nerd.
Well, yeah, that's Michael Bay right there.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't think that's like a bad thing about the movie. It's just sort of like Michael Bay just doesn't have a lot of respect for nerds unless they look like Bruce Willis or Ben Affleck or they're like super muscular and like fucking like
and if they were not in fact nerds is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
You could just end that statement with he doesn't like nerds.
Yeah,
he doesn't like nerds unless they like don't have any of the qualities of a nerd.
I mean, there's the scene where Billy Bob Thornton's explaining how they're going to slingshot around the moon, like a basic concept, and then like Steve Buscemi has to pop in with a zinger about how a slingshot is the thing that Wile E. Coyote uses in the cartoons.
Right. Well, then it's weird because Steve Buscemi's character is supposed to be really, really smart.
Right. Well, yeah, his whole thing is like, oh, I did the MIT thing, but like I like better just like doing cool shit with my hands and like blowing stuff up.
Which is a character that you see so often and I find frustrating sometimes.
I will say this, as bizarre as the Michael Bay ethos is, I think it's very consistent. I think it's a consistent worldview that's like put forward in this movie that like you don't really see as much in like big blockbusters. It's all just like, it's all superheroes now. It's like that's its own thing. But like we kind of not lost, but like this thing of, the rough and tumble, the guy who's actually smarter than the fancy suits, very effective classic storytelling.
You see it, you still see it in TV a lot.
Right. And I feel like I don't know. Like I wonder if there's like an interesting parallel there to Don't Look Up, which is very much we're not listening to the experts, but it's not like the the rough and tough. It's not like the red state that they're specifically not doing it. It's like the government and the billionaires who are like.
Well, there's no blue collar people in Don't Look Up at all, are there?
The only thing I can think of is when there's scenes of like the political rallies, the Don't Look Up rallies,
right,
which are very much coded as Trump rallies.
Yeah, I mean, was it? Oh God damn it! The actress's name.
Meryl Streep.
Yeah, Meryl Streep is female Trump.
Right, like very, very like obviously.
It's funny when I heard them mention the president, I was immediately thinking, oh, it's always a fun thing in movies who they pick for the president. Because I feel like in the 90s, it was always you knew you're in the future if you had a black president.
Right.
And then we had Obama, so it stopped being futuristic to have a black president.
So we got a lot of female presidents.
So then I was thinking, oh, it's a female president, so that's how we know we're in the future now. And then she came up, I was like, oh, it's female Trump. Right. Which is interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that comes from the political worldview, the filmmakers of Adam McKay.
Yeah.
This seems like a good point, a good time to bring up the people who made these movies.
Oh, yeah.
Don't Look Up, directed by Adam McKay, screenplay by Adam McKay, story by Adam McKay and David Sirota, who I want to get to. He is a political advisor for the Bernie Sanders campaign. And it's just like, he's not like a screenwriter, he's like a political guy who's friends with Adam McKay. Was
he helping out with the kind of details of what it's like to be on sort of a press tour kind of thing?
Not so. My understanding, and this is just from doing a little bit of research, he basically the movie. He has the story by credit. The movie came about of Adam McKay and David Sirota just hanging out, and they came up with the idea together. Mm-hmm. But the movie was written. The actual work of the screenplay writing was Adam McKay. Sirota just had the idea with him.
Oh, okay. So wait, he has story by?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And then Armageddon, directed by Michael Bay, as we've mentioned.
Yep.
And I'll get ready for this journey of screenplay credits.
Okay. Oh, how many writers? I want to guess 7 writers.
It's less than 7, but it's interesting how they break down.
Okay.
Screenplay by Jonathan Hensleigh and J.J. Abrams.
Oh,
Already pretty crazy, right?
yeah.
Adaptation by Tony Gilroy and Shane Salerno.
Is it based on a book?
Just wait.
Okay.
And then story by Jonathan Hensleigh and Robert Roy Poole. So I don't know how this adaptation by credit got in there. And I don't know why Tony Gilroy
have we
and
looked
Shane
up
Salerno.
if it's based on anything?
It doesn't seem to. If it is, it's not in the credits. It seems like maybe the story was created by... Started out with Jonathan Hensleigh and Robert Roy Poole.
Oh, it's adapted from another script?
Maybe. And somehow... So Tony Gilroy is very, very famous writer. Very famous for doing like passes on other people's script. But also, he wrote Michael Clayton. He wrote Duplicity and Beirut and like some of the Bourne movies. Known as just like maybe one of the best like just craft screenwriters out there. I guess my guess is these first writers came up with the idea. Gilroy and Salerno did a pass.
Hold on. I actually have a really funny note.
Okay,
So this is just for me looking up on Wikipedia right now. This page says that the writers of Deep Impact pitched it to Disney and they had an assistant take notes and then they just wrote their own Deep Impact and told Deep Impact to fuck off. So that maybe it's adapted from Deep Impact?
Oh my God. It's so straight. And especially because
Also, it says 9 writers worked on the script, 5 of whom are credited.
I believe that. I mean, this is definitely, there's so many zingers on this thing. There's so many this is definitely like a movie that was just sort of like cobbled together and held together by the glue of Michael Bay's like just explosive hatred of nerds.
It says originally is Hensleigh's script based on Poole's original that had been given the green light by Touchstone.
So it was an existing script that Hensleigh adapted, and then but then how do JJ and Hensleigh get the screenplay credit, and where does the adaptation credit come in?
I don't know.
There's
no way it's actually adapted from Deep Impact because
there'd be laws.
That wouldn't fly. Yeah, you can't do that.
Right, you can rip. It's actually very hard to rip off writers in that way in Hollywood. Like most people are not going to most studios especially are not going to bother with it when they can just pay them nothing and to get the rights for everything.
Yeah, and I think it's always. I feel like this is always a thing that beginner writers get very worried about, which is getting their ideas stolen. And what you eventually have to realize after years is that your ideas have no value.
Right. There's very few ideas that just are so incredibly valuable that that's it. It's all about execution. It's all about your actual ability to execute to write well.
Yeah. I mean, it's the script itself. And then also your ability to get that script in front of anybody.
Right. It's not if you just call someone to pitch them something, they're not going to be like, oh, it's a great idea, I'm going to steal it. They'd much rather just pay you
nothing,
WGA minimums, and then hire a better writer to do it. If they're going to, I'm using quote marks now, steal it.
Yeah. And anybody can come up with an idea. Dinosaur theme park, that takes 2 seconds to think of. It takes a lot more time to actually implement.
Exactly. So those are the people who wrote Armageddon, which is not a movie you think of as having written at all. Like I said, it just seems to have existed through an explosion.
Yeah, Armageddon it's crazy because it is such a long movie.
Yeah.
And it is also dense all the way through. It's like a telephone pole. It's just long and hard and keeps on going forever.
And it's so great because we were texting about this a little bit. It starts out so good. I think the first 30 minutes of this movie are I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. I had low expectations because, it's kind of it's not well thought of these days because it's like a big, dumb 90s action movie. But it's the first 30 minutes is fun and dumb. There's explosions. There's bad jokes. There's good jokes. There's crazy things happening.
If you were on cocaine for 3 days, it starts off good, but then by the 48th hour, you're sweating, you're dying, your liver hurts, you need to go to bed.
But you're how much longer is this going to go on?
Then you have another 24 hours left. I think, okay, here's my hot take. I think directors should be fined or taxed in some way for every minute over 90 minutes their movie
over 90?
Yes.
I think that's a lot.
No, but I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying they have to pay for it.
It's 10 grand a minute.
Yeah.
And they pay it to I don't know, some good fund that's good for people.
Yeah, to I don't know, the healthcare of their to pay to their employees.
Pay it to the union, I don't know.
Yeah. Give it to the fucking healthcare or the pension. It doesn't matter.
I will say
throw it in the air.
But I often will, as I'm getting older, I feel like I always say that movie could have been 20 minutes shorter.
That's my note for every movie is that it could be 30 to 60 minutes shorter. This movie could easily be
90 minutes. I think
60 minutes shorter.
I think this movie should be 30 minutes. You leave the opening 30 minutes, 5 stars, perfect. Then they just go to space.
Yeah.
Maybe you have 10 minutes of the training, so it's 40 minutes.
Yeah, maybe a montage.
Right, and then they're in space, and then it's just the rest of the movie. You can pretty much get rid of and lose the docking scene on the space shuttle, though that is fun.
Yeah. Also because it would really probably lose all of Peter Stormare, even though I love Peter Stormare.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that like it's not like there's easy stuff to pull out here. That, like you said, it's just so dense.
It's because there's not like a lot of fat. It's really just a big muscle going all the way through. I don't know. It's weird. This movie's really weird.
It's full of grist.
Yeah,
it's just lean game meat, but big and fat.
Yeah, it's like you kind of can't take out any of it, but you could also take out any of it.
Exactly.
It doesn't really matter.
You could probably take out a lot of the Liv Tyler Ben Affleck stuff, but that's also the only emotional plot line in this movie.
Oh God, but Ben Affleck.
This is not the Affleck that I've come to love in his later years. This is young Affleck.
The way him singing to her at length is very strange, but like kind of genuine and nice, but very upsetting to watch.
Yeah, and the thing is just they don't really have chemistry.
No.
The plot, I mean, that plot is so crazy because it starts out with Bruce Willis finding Ben Affleck in bed with his daughter and chasing him around an oil rig, shooting a shotgun at him.
That was crazy because also I don't think you should shoot things on an oil rig.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, I was constantly thinking of that. I was just like and he doesn't do it once and then everyone calls him out on it. He shoots him like 7 times.
I would say
shoots at him.
I have the note that it's a really interesting dynamic with Bruce Willis, Liv Tyler, and Ben Affleck because it is kind of that classic trope that I hate of like, you can't marry my daughter, she's too good for you.
Yeah.
But then it gets subverted constantly because all the other characters are telling him to calm the fuck down.
Right, because he was not a very good father to her and they all kind of raised her and all that stuff.
But then
and
they
it's not a huge
still
deal.
have it and they still position as Bruce Willis as being a caring dad.
Right.
So they're kind of having it both ways.
The movie is basically like there's a theme of this movie is that this one man is the best man.
Yeah.
And everyone should listen to him constantly. And I guess it's okay to fuck his daughter if you like offer to save the world, or if you drill good, like I'm not going there.
I mean, Ben Affleck's really good in this movie.
Crazy thing, I do want to bring this up. This is the second movie where there's like a thing where the main character has some like young dude who's like having sex with his daughter and he's not cool with it.
What was the other one?
Transformers 4. And I want to bring this up.
Oh, wait. Second Michael Bay movie. I thought you meant of movies we've covered.
No, oh no, you're right. I'm saying Michael Bay movie. In Transformers 4, the plot here is Mark Wahlberg's daughter is 17 and is sleeping with a guy who is like 20. And he gets really mad about it and he's like, you're like, that's technically statutory rape. And this character, the boyfriend character who's older, pulls out a laminated card out of his wallet that is the relevant state law that says, Romeo and Juliet law, that says if you're within like a few years, you can sleep with someone who's under the age of 18.
I mean, that is funny that it's laminated, but what the fuck?
It's so insane. And the scene goes on for like a long time. I think just I don't know what it is. It has to be a Michael Bay thing, right? Like there's no, the odds of one man directing two movies.
Does he have a 17-year-old girlfriend?
Did he sleep with a lot of people's daughters?
Maybe. No, that's just a thing in movies.
I know it is a thing, but
it's
like
not,
it's weird that
he didn't make this up.
It's weird that he did it twice and that it was the emotional core of 2 movies, one of which was a Transformers movie.
I think the weirder thing is that it's been done 50,000 other times by so many other movies.
Yeah, like the old trope, like the shotgun, or like, you go like, you better have her home by 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess
better not. I mean, look, they do it in 22 Jump Street.
Yeah, I guess weird like patriarchal like attitudes about that have been, or like predate our existence.
And I feel like that's an attitude that, I mean, I'm sure it still exists a good amount in America.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much where we live.
Yeah.
But it's definitely perpetuated by these movies that find it so entertaining to keep on showing.
Yes, I think that's more the point of making it. It's weird that Michael Bay finds it so delightful that like someone is fucking your daughter, and is like so like cavalier about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the kind of the lowbrow auteur. Is he an auteur?
So I think so. I mean, he's got a specific style,
which is horrible, but it's very recognizable.
The French, like Cahiers du Cinema, like the like very fancy French film critics will love him. Like unironically think he's like an artist. The French
people have a weird experience because who's that comedian who's giant in France?
Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, they love Jerry Lewis.
They just have the French. To quote Eddie Izzard, I do like the French, but they can be kind of French.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
So Armageddon is insane and loud and weird. The opening of the movie is a bunch of asteroids attack New York, and
it really So that's something. If we want to talk about these movies in conversation with each other,
yeah.
The way this movie starts, out the gate, bunch of asteroids blowing shit up with that crazy sequence of the dog.
Right.
Don't Look Up is mostly about the silent terror of a big asteroid coming for you. There's not little sub-asteroids that are causing mayhem. Meanwhile.
Right. The terror is like a reaction to it. Like, I mean, that's the real central highbrow, lowbrow of it is Armageddon is, of course we choose to do the right thing, but are we manly enough to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, to actually accomplish it. Whereas Don't Look Up is our society is so messed up that we can't even band together for an asteroid / climate change.
Yeah, it's funny because Don't Look Up is all about the public reaction to a giant asteroid, and Armageddon pointedly doesn't tell the public about it.
Yeah, they just find out
until the very end.
Right.
They don't want to engage with that aspect of a apocalyptic event at all.
Right. Well, they don't want to like bother people. Like, it actually is a good argument by Billy Bob Thornton's character. It's like, if we tell people the world is ending, everything will break down and there'd be no point in saving them.
Oh yeah, I don't mean the people. I don't mean the characters. I mean the movie itself is not interested. In that.
And when we do find out the world doesn't do that, they just hopefully stare at the sky so they can cut back to that constantly while the astronauts are trying to like save the world.
Yeah.
It really is like that assumption that we're all just going to do the right thing. I mean, that's the lowbrow of it, is see problem, solve problem.
The lowbrow is hope.
The lowbrow is hope. The whole optimism.
Lowbrow is faith. Optimism and faith in humanity is the lowest brow thing you can have in a film.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's no like evil people in this movie. There's like the nerds who are getting in the way, and then there's like
there's kind of the. I mean, he's
a nerd
who gets in the way.
Yeah.
What's that actor?
William Fichtner.
Yeah,
the guy who he's like
Dark Knight.
He almost like launches the nuke too early because he gets nervous, but then like he's quickly like, I'm just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, can you drill this hole? And Bruce Willis like, I can drill shit.
I can drill any hole.
I will hit 10,000 feet or whatever it is.
And then Ben Affleck's like, I can drill anything, including his daughter. And he's like, oh, you got me.
And then he chases him around with a shotgun for
and
20
then he
minutes.
yanks out his air hose. There's so many dumb solutions to simple problems in this movie.
Right. Well,
Like,
the air hose is like when they're, Ben Affleck has been chosen to sacrifice himself to the bomb.
Yeah, so he almost kills Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Bruce Willis pulls out his air hose to like force him to stay in the airlock.
Yeah, which is actually kind of a good solve. But but it's a good solve on its way to a dumb solve, which is that he has to manually turn on the bomb. Why doesn't it have an egg timer on it?
Right, because they had a remote.
Definitely got a clock.
Right, they had a remote detonator, but the remote detonator trigger was on Earth. And the reason they had to manually do it is so the people on Earth. Why not have the manual detonator on the spaceship, which is much closer?
Or don't have a detonator at all. Just put it on a timer.
That's true.
Put it on a 10-minute timer.
Well,
and
I guess
go.
if the timer goes wrong, you're like totally fucked. But then the NASA even says we always do two things. Like we always have backup plans. Why only have the relay from Earth?
Yeah.
They should have a timer and a relay from Earth.
And then maybe a trigger if the timer doesn't work. But
right, and it should be like if no one touches it for 10 minutes, it just blows up anyway. Or
Yeah,
just,
it
like
should
have a dead man's switch on it.
it should just blow up when it gets to that
Altitude.
that line that they were talking about.
Yeah. No, I mean that just makes it's shit like that like the movie doesn't really give a shit about too. I think the movie
It doesn't really matter.
because the movie is at its best delivering really crazy set pieces, like action.
And
set
there
pieces.
are some really crazy set pieces. The flying moon rover thing.
Oh yeah, Evil Knieveling it across the cat. I love that scene. That is
It's very
the movie
fun.
at its best. I think, and like the movie at its worst is when it gets
I
repetitive.
mean, the Animal Crackers is the movie at its worst, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think once like
It really seemed like he was going to shove that animal cracker in her vagina.
It really.
That was really seemed like what he was getting at, because he's like, maybe we go up to the mountains. Like, okay, it's funny. Boobs are like mountains, and maybe we go down. I'm like, wait, we're going to go down? Where's that giraffe going, buddy?
Which is funny because the line preceding that where he's like, I don't think animal crackers are technically crackers is kind of good chuffa. It's like good screenwriting of like
Chuffa.
Chuffa. It's just like the shit that people say in a scene before they talk about the plot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's fun. It's a solid bit.
Yeah, no, and then it just sort of gets weird and pervy because I think Michael Bay just like doesn't understand.
He's weird and pervy?
Yeah, I guess.
Famously?
Yeah, like he's like not canceled. He's just known for being like
Yeah.
he just
He's
like
not criminal. He just kind of like,
he just likes Victoria's Secret models, I guess.
yeah, and gratuitous ass shots of extras. Speaking of Michael Bay, did you catch his cameo?
I did. He's one of the nerds.
Yeah, he's one of their. It's so quick.
I know.
Okay, so just for funsies, how do you feel about director cameos in general? I am often torn about them. I feel like they're hard to do well, or they're done best when they're silent, like in this movie. It's a
Yeah.
Hitchcock-esque cameo.
Right. I think that's the only time it makes sense. Like, okay, so the Hitchcock stuff is fun because it's like Spot Hitch, and Hitch was like such a brand.
Yeah.
And he was so fun and tongue in cheek that I think it worked for him.
Yeah.
I think Shyamalan is the other end of that where it really
he's in it too much.
Yeah, he gives himself more and
Tarantino
more
is
to
the same
do.
way.
Yeah, I mean, especially I'm trying to think because like Django is the biggest one, the biggest cameo. Well,
No,
and-
Pulp Fiction.
right. Well, although Django, he like affects the plot a lot. Like he's the one of the like Australians, and like Django blows him up with dynamite.
Does he talk a lot in Django? I haven't seen Django in a while.
He has a very, I'm going to say inaccurate, not as accurate as it could be, Australian act. I don't know. I don't want to say mean things about Quentin Tarantino because I think he's so talented. But like, it's not a great performance.
I love Quentin Tarantino as a writer and director. I don't think he's a very good actor.
Yeah.
He's maybe the low point of Pulp Fiction, which is funny because the dialogue is written quite well.
Right.
It's just that he's not very good at delivering it because he's not an actor.
Right. And it's this thing of like, what are you getting out of you being? So if you're an actor who is directing and you want to put yourself in your movie in any capacity, like fine. Like you're an actor. You're probably giving yourself the role unfairly, but you're also the director. And if you're an actor who can direct, you're probably a good actor because you've had that good career to pivot.
And also in theory, you know exactly what the director wants.
Right. But like if
in practice you do.
So and if you're Michael Bay in Armageddon, like why not? It's a blink and you miss it. If you don't know who he is or what he looks like, it will just be a shot of a bunch of nerds standing over a map.
Yeah. And then if you're a director who's sticking yourself in a scene, you're probably not as good at acting as anybody you can cast.
Right.
If you're an actor who is directing a movie, get out of there.
Right.
Let a real director do it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to direct that movie.
That is true. I mean, we have talked about doing highbrow, lowbrow actors turn directors.
Right.
And it's funny how I think almost all of them are highbrow. It's almost all of them doing like some sort of prestige project, some period piece they really want to do.
I'm sure there's some comedies though.
I mean, Jon Favreau is probably the best actor turned director that I can think of. Although he
might be a better director than he was an actor.
Yes, but he was always a director, right? Like he was always doing both. Like he wasn't like an act. He didn't build a career in acting then pivot to directing.
I think so. I mean, he was in Swingers.
Did he direct Swingers? I've always thought that. I mean, you know Swingers more than I do, so I defer to you.
I don't know the story of the production of Swingers. Let's see.
I think maybe he wrote it. He's always been. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in The Sopranos, he's like a director and writer too. When they like are
it's directed by Doug Liman, written by Jon Favreau.
Gotcha. And Doug Liman obviously a very hugely successful director.
Right.
Yeah, so like I feel like I can't think of like an actor who did a lowbrow movie interesting enough. And also, I mean, who is the best? Like, well, I mean, Favreau might be like the most successful for like the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, who's the best actor turned director?
Yeah, I mean, the famous ones are like Robert Redford,
Clooney.
Although Clooney, I feel like they've become. I think I just haven't seen one of his in a while.
Yeah, me neither.
You have Good Night and Good Luck, which I think is really good. But yeah, like I didn't see Leatherhead or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, then there's like Charles Lawton directed Night of the Hunter, so like that's probably the best, but like that's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about this.
Chaplin. So pivoting to Don't Look Up.
Mm-hmm, right.
So you don't spend a lot of time on Twitter.
No, I spend zero time on Twitter because I hate it.
I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I also hate it.
Stop doing that.
Yes. There has been quite a very vicious discourse around Don't Look Up recently.
Vicious? People not liking it?
It's back and forth. So part of it is you've got political people.
Right.
Like David Sirota, that guy I mentioned, the political guy, he's been tweeting a lot about like, if you don't like this movie, maybe you don't get it, stuff like that.
Right, okay.
And I'm paraphrasing a lot. And then there's been like people attacking critics who don't like it. Then there's critics who do like it, but not because of the political reasons. There's this thing of like, but all built in that is this thing of, is this movie like smug? Is this like the backlash? This is similar to the Idiocracy backlash.
Okay, I mean, out the gate, I think that it's okay to be smug.
Right. You anger all sides. Yes, it's smug. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, I want it to be smug. I would wish it was a better movie.
Yeah.
But I don't dislike it for being smug. I personally dislike it for being a very close parody.
Disliking Don't Look Up.
Yeah, I
thought you liked it quite a bit based on the Letterboxd.
It's funny. So on Letterboxd I gave it 4 stars, but I think in the days since then, I've downgraded it to a 3-star.
Yeah.
In that I think it's a solid movie. I will say I like the ending a lot.
Yeah.
And I think part of why I rated it highly was because I just come out of that ending, which I thought was pretty great.
I agree. I would agree with that entirely.
But all of it going up to it is a little less fulfilling, and thinking about it, reflecting on it later, I think maybe as a total movie, it's in the middle. It's fine.
I would agree with that, and I think the failing of not the failing, because again it's a movie. I also gave it 3 stars. I think Don't Look Up is very good. I think it's very funny. I think it's really long in the middle, and I think the satire becomes very inexact and is very Doctor Strangelove. It's like 90 minutes. It's awesome, and the satire is like you always know like what it's doing. It's super focused on like what the joke is on. And Don't Look Up's kind of scattered. And like I think that works when it's Idiocracy and a lowbrow and they're just sort of poking fun. But if you're self-important,
it's weird because
this movie,
I almost have the opposite note where I kind of want it to be less focused satire. Because I don't know, it seems like such a specific criticism of Trump and Trump supporters.
Yeah.
That constantly the joke is, oh, I recognize that those dumb people are like the people I think are dumb in real life, which is not. I don't know, it doesn't do that much for me. I'd rather have a story that's not constantly pointing out how it's related to the real world.
So let me clarify, because I actually agree with that point. I think it's really that Don't Look Up is kind of in this middle ground between Doctor Strangelove and Idiocracy.
Okay.
Where if it was less focused and if it was just like a little more fun and a little more like, everything's crazy and like not as like basically if Don't Look Up was a lowbrow movie, I think it would be better. Or it needs to be like a tighter satire, because right now it's kind of doing both, and I think so that you end up with this movie that's very long and fun, but like kind of doesn't deserve the great ending it has, if that makes sense.
I know. Heading into Act 3, I was kind of just thinking, how does this movie end? Because I was just thinking about there's 3 endings, right, that you could have. We fail, asteroid hits. We succeed, asteroid doesn't hit. Or we kind of fail, and some things are destroyed, but not everything.
Right.
And I was just thinking, because it positions itself as such a direct parody of current political events, no matter what of those 3 endings happens, it feels like a political statement.
Right. I mean, just based on who came up with the movie, I think it's very much meant to be a really political statement.
Right. But it's funny because I was thinking that kind of bothers me a little bit, because I'm just thinking there's interesting ways any of those 3 endings could happen.
Yeah.
And none of those endings is necessarily better or worse than the others. But by positioning yourself this way, you kind of paint yourself in a corner where only one ending is kind of the righteous ending.
I agree with that. I think it's just comes down to this thing that it's really, really hard to do the kind of satire that Don't Look Up wants to do.
Right.
I think like to do the whole like you laugh until suddenly you're sad. Like Great Dictator, Doctor Strangelove. Although Strangelove, I think, is very, very silly. It's just such a tightrope of tone, and like if you don't nail it, you come off as preachy.
Yeah.
Or if the satire is inexact, then you're just like, oh well, I can just my brain just slows that off.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun. It's a shame because I do want to talk about some of the good things about this movie. I think, like I said, it's very funny. I think the concept's really good. I think Jonah Hill is so funny in this movie.
He's very funny.
The scene where he's just like, anytime a character is just really, really mean to someone for no reason, I think it's funny.
Yeah, the joke of him, how he asked them to put the bag over her head and they didn't have to do that, was really funny.
I think that's meant, and the running joke. I think the best satire in this movie is the running joke that the general in the United States like charged them for free snacks when they came to meet the president.
And she's talking to Timothée Chalamet about it later. I laughed really hard.
She keeps bringing it up, and that's I think that's the kind of really silly but smart satire.
Yeah, that's a better, more incisive satire of our society and government than anything else.
Right, because I think if you have a movie that this can get very serious like this movie does, but then you have, like the president, like Meryl Streep, who I think is doing a really good job, but it's a very broad character. It's harder. It's easy for you to just be like, oh, well, that's so silly. Basically do the idiocracy of, I see what you're making, the point you're making about anti-intellectualism, but obviously the thirst mutilator is not going to exist.
Right.
Whereas, like, I don't know. I can't even, like, get mad at Adam McKay for not 100% landing it because it's such a high wire act. But, like, this is a movie that I feel like, I mean, if this had come out 10 years ago and starred Will Ferrell, I think this movie would have been like 5 stars for me.
Yeah, I mean, because then it wouldn't really be a political satire as much. I don't know. It
would
be
broader.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I often just find satire.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
And it's funny because I agree with I think I have the same political views as Adam McKay.
Yeah.
But I just find it kind of exhausting to be shouted those political views in a movie. I'm like, I get it. I agree with you. I want to see movies about humans.
Right. And it's tough, especially because if you agree, it's tough to watch satire you already agree with that isn't like delivering some other new like twist on it.
Yeah, and then if you're watching satire you don't agree with, it's infuriating.
Right. If you don't believe in climate change, if you watch this movie, and you're probably just like either you're not getting it, or you're just like, well, that was dumb. I don't agree that works.
Right.
Whereas if you agree with it, like I don't know, people who really get passionate about climate change, like what call to action is don't look up, like telling us to have, like be more urgent, get organized in the streets more, like.
Yeah, it's just that we're right.
Yeah.
And that these people are bad.
Right. But like, I think the satire is so inexact because like very pointedly, the reason climate change is hard to tackle is that it's not like a giant asteroid.
Right.
It's kind of invisible and no one's quite sure exactly what like we all know we need to lower emissions, but like, how do we do that? Are there...
Okay. Well, I would say one interesting point that the movie does have, which it kind of shares with Armageddon in a weird way, is just kind of how being right without being charismatic and having the right message, putting that message across the right way is useless. Because I just have the note that this is a movie about how nerds are useless because they're right, but nobody listens to them because they're annoying. They're annoying and weird.
Yeah.
And then Armageddon kind of does the same thing where it's the nerds are annoying and weird, but they're wrong.
Right.
They're both movies that hate nerds, but Don't Look Up thinks the nerds are right and hates them, and Armageddon thinks the nerds are wrong and hates them.
That is a really good point. I will say, I think that's a good point because I think when Don't Look Up its strongest is when it's a media satire.
Right.
I think the stuff with Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry as the morning show host is really funny.
I actually do agree with that.
The stuff with the New York Herald as the New York Times was all pretty fun.
Right. And then all the whole thing about them when they're watching the demos of what was trending during the segment, and they just start showing all the memes of Jennifer Lawrence is really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, also, Ariana Grande is really good in this.
Oh yeah, she's really fun.
Yeah,
her and Kid Cudi are great.
They're really funny.
Yeah.
She's great. You never know what you're gonna get when a singer comes on to act. Sometimes you get a Zendaya. But in this case, Ariana Grande is really good. She's doing kind of a parody of people's perceptions of her.
Yeah. I loved the scene where she's like sitting there right before the morning show. And Leo says like, "Oh, I'm sorry you guys broke up." And she just like curses at him.
Yeah, she just tells him to shut the fuck up. And she's kind of right.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And like that's really good. The parodies of Fame is good. I think the song she sings, Look Up, where Kid Cudi comes in and his verse is just about like how he wants her to take him back.
Yeah.
Is so funny and really so
good.
accurate to how some of these like shoot-in rap verses on pop songs often go.
Oh yeah, because it does feel like I think it actually might be how they're written, how the rapper does not necessarily have any perspective on the actual tone of the song itself. Yeah. He just wrote a different verse that they just kind of cut and pasted in there.
I think my favorite example, the Maroon 5 song Payphone, which is about how like the main character of Maroon 5 is like at a payphone trying to call like this person he misses, and he's like, "I'm so sad without you."
Yeah.
And Wiz Khalifa comes in and literally his first line of his verse is, "Yo, fuck that shit," and then he just does a verse about how fucking awesome he is and how he doesn't need anybody else.
That's great.
And how great and much a baller he is, and then he just like says like, "Peace, I'm out, Wiz," and then like Maroon 5 just comes back in as if he didn't fucking say anything.
That's so good.
And that's like, Don't Look Up's kind of parodying that thing, and that's really fun. And like I think that's like when Don't Look Up clicks, I think it's so great and so clever, and I think it's a little ahead of itself. It's a little too long. I think it, like I said, I think it would have worked better as a lowbrow.
Yeah, we don't really see the media in Armageddon at all, do we?
Not. There's just the scenes where like they do like voiceover of like news reports, just so you can track where the world is in like how the stakes.
Well, so actually, the stakes, the way it deals with worldwide stakes, which is a tough thing to deal with. We talked about in the Tenet episode about how when the planet is going to explode, it's really hard to care about it.
It's hard to have personal stakes when everything is
Although I do feel like weirdly in both of these movies, I didn't really have that problem. I actually was on board with the stakes.
I agree with that.
But I think for me, it's most often in kind of big superhero movies where there's, Galactus is going to eat the world.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But the way that these movies visually show the stakes of that is by cutting in kind of B-roll of just... I mean, Don't Look Up does it a lot more often. It's more of a motif in the movie.
Right,
it's kind
very highbrow move.
Yeah, it's kind of B-roll of, animals, but also people, and then just kind of things totally unrelated to plot. And then Armageddon does it a little bit in the end, I noticed, where they kind of just have B-roll of Well, I think there's people watching the news broadcast.
Yeah, and like people like there's like a family that goes into like their storm shelter, or like people are like gathering around in the street, like all this stuff of people like feeling hopeful or scared and stuff. Like really does build the stakes. Yeah, you kind of need that.
Visually, it's a very similar solution to the same problem, which is that you need to show the people who are going to die.
Right, but like I think the highbrow lowbrow of it is. In Armageddon, it's we're doing this so you can get stakes for the main plot of the movie.
Right.
And in I think in Don't Look Up, it's like this higher brow thing of like constantly cutting to like plants and birds and stuff. Of just like, shouldn't we appreciate this planet? I think it's more the message it's going there.
Yeah, weirdly, that really worked for me because
really?
It's like, because like showing a giraffe, I'm like, oh yeah, the giraffe is going to die too.
Yeah.
And just like the
giraffes
idea,
are not asteroid proof.
Yeah, the idea that there's this whole continuum of life on Earth, and then it's going to get cut off by this one thing, is very powerful. I don't know. It's
yeah. I mean, let's talk about the ending because we both have already like said it's. I mean, yeah. So everyone dies in the asteroid hits, the whole world dies.
Yeah. There's a slow-mo sequence of the house getting ripped up.
Yeah. There's a lot of freeze frames of people right before that, which I think is a reference to Failsafe, which is a movie about nuclear Armageddon that does the exact same thing.
Oh, okay.
Somewhat famously, there's like a countdown to a bomb, and it just shows the city of just people living their lives, and then when the bomb hits, it's freeze frames of everything.
Oh, interesting.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think that ending is like really powerful because it's like it gets really real.
Yeah, and it's also how they're all kind of just trying to have very normal conversations while they're doing the Jurassic Park thing where everything's starting to shake and you know the explosion's coming.
Right, and they're just saying like we tried, you know.
Yeah,
and Leo has a really great line. I forget what it is. Like, you know, we really had a good life, or we really had it all, or something.
Oh yeah, that was nice. And then also them arguing about the store-bought versus homemade pie.
Right,
is that's like the main conversation that's happening up until the end.
Yeah, I mean it's that's what makes it really human, and that's what makes it really effective.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think that works because of because of all the plots that they've had, the interpersonal plots of like.
Oh yeah, because it's also the reconciliation with his wife.
Right, which is I think I didn't love that plot with him and Cate Blanchett and
because
Lewinsky.
It didn't do a lot for me because I don't know. It's not exciting to see somebody cheat on their wife because they got famous because it's something you've seen a lot.
Yeah, I think that. I kind of see what they're trying to do, you know, like he's well-meaning, kind of schlubby, and then like he gets the glitz of fame is as much what's like, you know, making him work for these bad people, as much as anything else, and like, you know, personalized with Cate Blanchett, you know, who's tall and blonde and pretty. I think I lost that a little bit just because I didn't think it felt like the movie didn't give it as much time as it needed, and I think they could have lost a lot of that, or they really needed to lean into Leo's arc of. You know, I'm doing the right thing. Oh, I'm on these people's side because actually I like the power it gives me. Oh, now I realize that I don't like this power and I hate them. You know, like coming full circle.
Right.
And Leo has that really great speech where he gets really freaks out on TV.
Yeah.
Like I didn't track how he got there.
I know. There's a lot of scenes of people just screaming at cameras in this movie, and various levels of effectiveness.
Yeah, I mean stuff like that I think worked. It worked when Jennifer Lawrence did it for me in the beginning of the movie where she's freaking out because it just started.
Well, yeah, because she also doesn't have the media training that they're talking about. Like,
right. At
that point, Leo should know better.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, I guess it's meant to be a personal thing of like, finally he cracked. But there's no build to that. Or if it was, I didn't track it as well.
And it just seems like it's a weird way for him to crack. He could be honest and talk about, you know, how things are getting messed up and how they foiled his efforts to solve this thing. But it seems weird that he would just start screaming about it without any self-control.
I know, and it's a shame because that's, I think, the idea of the movie is we should all be screaming about climate change. But if you scream, no one likes you.
Yeah, I think,
like that's really good. That's really good satire.
Yeah, is that screaming is an appropriate response to climate change, but it is the least effective way to get people to listen to you. Right.
I think that's really clever. I just think that the movie doesn't get there as cleanly as I want it to. And like, and I'm on the movie side. Climate change is bad. We should all be screaming. The world is terrible. But like, I don't know. There's like an hour of this movie I would cut, even though it's all funny.
Yeah. Same with Armageddon. That's the main thing these two movies have in common is that we could cut an hour out of both of them. Does Armageddon have anything to say as a movie other than that like nerds are fucking dumb?
Nerds are dumb. Texas driller people are cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you learn to be a better father. You have to growing up means letting go.
Shoot your daughter's boyfriend,
right?
Which everybody knew that going into it,
right? But except Michael Bay and Bruce Willis, I guess.
Yeah.
It really does not have like a message other than you should be brave, which is fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just a big old adventure movie, which doesn't need to have a moral. It's just, there's a big ass problem. How do we fix this problem? Which I'm fine with. I kind of like that about it.
Right. It's we talked about how movies that are joke machines.
Yeah, this is an action machine.
Right. It's like really good at like The Raid, like that action movie I love. I don't know that it has anything to say about anything. I think it's just moment for moment the most entertaining things that exists. You know? Like that's where Armageddon's aspiring to. Obviously, I think it should be shorter. But, like, man, freaking when they jump a moon rover across a chasm on an asteroid that looks like a Dr. Seuss speed cut, it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's really wild. Okay, apropos of nothing, why is there a minigun on that drill?
I was about to say.
Why is there a minigun? Because guns are cool, I guess, but what were they expecting to shoot with that thing?
It's so crazy. This movie has time for so many weird, dumb bits when they're preparing to go up to the training. It's like 30 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie of them training, and they never have a throwaway line of why is there a Gatling gun on that Mars driller? It's or asteroid driller. It's like, oh, we need it for space goons. I don't know.
Yeah, space donkeys.
It's so, that's so big and dumb, but it also leads to my favorite sequence of the movie where Steve Buscemi takes control of the Gatling gun and shoots it everywhere and just has the most deadpan crazy man performance for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and then they say he has space madness.
Space dementia.
Space dementia.
It's so good. And fucking this movie delivers dumbass shit like that with such a good straight face. I think all the actors of this movie are great.
Oh yeah, they're really good.
It's such a good just team of dudes.
Yeah.
Talk about dudes.
Speaking of the team of dudes, I find this movie talking about how this movie kind of just wants to have everything and have everything both ways all the time.
Yeah.
So we start off the movie. The team is all together on the oil rig.
Yep.
And then Bruce Willis gets taken away. And then we have to assemble the exact same team that we just had together on the oil rig. We have a big montage where they're talking about how we have to find them. They've scattered. It's like, they were just on an oil rig 10 minutes ago. Why did you let them leave?
But it does lead to maybe the funniest get the gang back together scene. Because normally, like Ocean's 11, it's just like, they shows the people what they're doing and they're like, we've got a job for you. Welcome to the Avengers. But this movie, they are hunted down by the cops. It's like, we got to get the gang back together. Cut to Michael Clark Duncan on a shredded denim vest and a fucking Harley being chased by helicopters and a speed trap and shit.
Yeah, it was really crazy.
It's so much fun. And also fucking Owen Wilson is in this movie.
Okay.
Owen Wilson is in this movie.
Okay. We weren't introduced to Owen Wilson before he shows up in that meeting, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I have to know, where the hell did Owen Wilson come from? Was there?
He's not on the rig.
He's not on the rig. Okay. So I didn't just doze off for that part.
I think he's in the montage. They track him down.
There must be a cut scene or something.
I think there's a scene,
which is insane.
There's a scene of a guy. I think it's a guy on a horse, and then it's the shot of it's always sunset and there's shit chasing him, and then he's just in the meeting. I don't think there's a setup of who he is.
Okay, because that's crazy. Because we meet every single other character on the rig beforehand, and then Owen Wilson just shows up.
Yeah,
kind of like how later on Peter Stormare just shows up and is in there.
Yeah, he's just I'm in the space. Well, he's the Russian. He's the cosmonaut in the ISS.
He's in Mir.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
but they never say Mir. They just say, "Hello, Russian space station," as if the name of the Russian space station is quote Russian space station.
Peter Stormare is so funny in this.
He's not Russian though. He plays Russian guys a lot, right?
He's Swedish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He plays Russian dudes a lot.
He does a very good Russian accent, he does a very good American. He does a very good whatever Americans think a Russian accent is.
Yeah,
yeah,
and apparently Swedes.
Oh, he's so good. I love the scene. Again, a good point of the movie that hates nerds. The scene where the astronaut, the one woman in space, is trying to fix their blast shell or whatever, and Peter Stormare is let me fix it, and he just shoves her out of the way and hits it with a wrench.
Right. Yes, that was super crazy.
That's this movie. Yeah. In a nutshell.
Yeah, it hates nerds. It hates women.
Yeah,
it doesn't really hate women. Doesn't depict them enough to hate them.
I will say, there's two women in this movie.
Yeah.
There's Liv Tyler, who exists to be sad.
Yeah.
And just B Stakes.
And the other woman who exists to be shoved out of the way so a guy can hit a pipe with a wrench.
Right. The other, it's she's a female astronaut, and there's
does
one.
Does she have a name?
She does. Okay. I do not know what it is. There's a scene where she's training them, and then the whole point of the scene is the boys are isn't she kind of hot?
Right. Yeah.
And then And then the only other thing she does in the movie is get thrown out of the way by Peter Stormare so that the man can fix the problem by hitting it with a giant metal stick.
Yeah. Fuck nerds, man.
Fucking nerds.
Fucking hate those fucking nerds.
Except the only cool, good nerd is Jason Isaacs' character because he's, I guess, handsome. He's just like...
Wait, who's Jason Isaacs?
He's the guy who gives the speech about the firecracker.
Oh, right.
Right. Just because if you're a hot nerd, it's okay.
Yeah.
And we'll listen to you if you have a cool, deep British voice.
No, we like hot people.
Right. Yeah. Michael Bay movies are all about how hot people are hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot people are objectively better. Speaking of nerds who suck.
Yeah.
And really, okay, so the connective tissue between these two movies that they both of them hate nerds for weirdly different reasons. But the other way in which Don't Look Up hates nerds is the Steve Jobs parody who sounds exactly like Teddy Perkins.
Yes. Mark Rylance is the actor playing Peter Isherwell.
Yes.
Is the character who I think he's also meant to be Peter Thiel, who's like he's like a right-wing like tech billionaire.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like an amalgam of Steve. I thought he was a lot like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, obviously Jobs because just being, I mean, this Jobs originated that archetype of like the aloof, brilliant tech genius.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, Bezos and Musk.
Yeah, Bezos, Musk. I mean, Zuckerberg sort of, but like Zuckerberg is such a weird entity in the public at this.
Yeah,
and he's just defined by his social network at this point.
And also, Bezos and Musk are specifically involved in the space race.
Yeah.
In a way that this guy is. But he does sound exactly like Teddy Perkins, which is the character from Atlanta played by Donald Glover, which is kind of a parody of Michael Jackson. It's Donald Glover in whiteface. Just check it out.
It's a really it's not my favorite episode of Atlanta, but I acknowledge it's a trip and you should watch it.
It's a crazy ass episode of Atlanta. If you don't watch Atlanta, watch it. It's one of the best TV series ever made by humans on planet Earth.
Yeah, and season 3 is coming out soon. And I'm gonna take a very quick detour. My rec a few weeks ago was the show Station 11. I'd only seen one episode.
Do you still like it?
Yes, I'm 3 episodes in. It's great.
Oh, good.
I stand by the rec, and the connection to Atlanta is the same director.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Hiro Murai.
Hiro Murai
is very well directed show.
Yeah.
And very well directed. It is. So Hiro does almost all the episodes, right? I think Donald Glover does some of them.
You're right. I think as it goes on, Hiro does more and more. I think he's a producer on it.
Oh, because I thought Hiro directed almost every episode, which is why that show has a really interesting unified
He definitely
style.
did the pilot. And like it's one of those things, like a director comes in, does the pilot, and sets the style.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about just based on what I recall from seeing credits of a show that last came out 4 years ago.
And I'm doing the same thing, where I just think I have a different conclusion than you.
So the Mark Rylance character, Peter Isherwell.
Yeah. So about how he's kind of has no social graces, but is using technology to understand people. Mm-hmm. But also just how he's a insanely damaging force in that ultimately does kill the world. Right.
And I think that's it's hit or miss for me, but I think there's a lot of really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like
he's funny.
He's so funny. It's so strange. Like it's just such a classic dumb joke, but where he says like you're going to be killed by like a Bacharach, and then in the future she just gets killed by like a weird future thing.
That was so. Actually, my thoughts on the ending. I like that they paid off that joke, although I kind of enjoyed it just being a weird one-off joke earlier.
Yeah.
I will say I really wanted the movie to just end with a cut to black when the house blows up.
I agree. I think that would have been...
But that's also kind of how I want all movies to end. Like, I know I'm kind of a broken record where I think everything should be 20 to 60 minutes shorter, and I think they should cut out at the moment of greatest emotional impact and not have an epilogue ever.
Everything should end like The Sopranos did.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad take.
Yeah, it worked for Sopranos. Although famously, a lot of people hated it.
A lot of people got apparently a lot of people thought their TV had cut out.
That's really funny.
Especially because a lot of people had gotten HBO just for that finale.
And that's so funny.
Yeah. So the Mark Rylance character is and it's like, I think that's a really good focused satire. It's not just in Trump crazy. It's like there are these billionaires who are behind the scenes who have access and are kind of like pushing our politicians in directions that we don't like.
And I think he's more effective satire because he's not just Steve Jobs. He's not just Bezos. He's kind of an amalgam of all of them in a way that can comment on all of them.
Right.
Whereas the president is just Trump.
Right.
It's just Lady Trump.
Yeah.
There's not really anything else going on.
Right down to like having like a weird fail son as her like chief of staff.
And also, I do like the runner that the son keeps on talking about how hot she is.
Right.
That is an interesting indirect parody because it's
the whole thing is Trump's always talking about how hot his daughter is.
Yeah. And so they reverse that. And it's really funny.
Well, there's the continuum between these movies. Armageddon is about, having sex with someone's daughter. Trump always talks about having sex with his daughter. And then there's the parody of that in reverse. Jonah Hill always talk about people having sex with his mom.
The other connective tissue between these two movies is having weird quasi-sexual relationships with your daughter.
Yeah, it's like weird.
I love that.
Yeah. It's like really weird Oedipal, reverse Oedipal. I don't know. There's a weird Greek word for it.
Yeah.
But that's the connection. Thank you guys for
I'm
coming
sure
to
Freud has written a pamphlet about whatever is going on.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
So I really like the tech stuff. I think the scene where Mark Rylance, where his character like basically dresses down Leo, where he's just like, or Leo's like, are you sure you're doing the right thing? And he's like, I know everything about everything, and I know how you're going to die. How dare you even talk to me?
Right, yeah.
I think that's really effective because this thing, it's the thing of like tech people and engineers people and nerds, like because they're brilliant at their one thing, they think they know everything about everything.
Yeah, and it's also kind of the same phenomena as people do it saying, I did my research when they just watch some YouTube videos.
Right. And like I think that's so good because that's kind of, we'll just innovate our way out of this problem, and then it just fails and they don't have a backup.
Yeah.
It's like the confidence because it's an easy answer is really good. And also tells that Mark Rylance is, one of our great actors, and just fucking rules.
What else is he from?
He won an Oscar for Bridge of Spies. He's the spy.
I never saw Bridge of Spies.
He's very good.
Oh, okay.
He won
Is
an
that
Oscar.
Spielberg?
Yes. I think a really underrated like Spielberg. Like I don't know. I think people are gonna like rediscover that movie in like 20 years. It's gonna have like a Criterion edition, and people are gonna be like, "All right, this movie fucking rules." So okay, so this is highbrow, lowbrow. We talk highbrow and we talk lowbrow, and when they meet, which of these movies is a better depiction of the theme of a big asteroid?
Okay, which one has the bigger asteroid? Which one has the more dangerous asteroid? The answer is Deep Impact. Deep Impact is the best one.
It's like I don't know. It's like a marketing thing. It's like, oh, what does pomegranate juice mean to you? Like what does an asteroid mean
what is
to
big
you?
asteroid? I mean, when I think of big asteroid, I think of giant existential threat, terror. The entire world will die. Mm-hmm. And Don't Look Up is about having to mentally deal with that.
Right.
And Armageddon is not about that.
Not at
Armageddon, it doesn't. It could be anything. It could be that asteroid could just hit the White House, and the movie would be the same.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter that it's so big that it kills the world.
Yeah.
In fact, it would be funnier if it was just hitting the White House because we'd be doing this insane mission and all these people die and it would just be so one guy doesn't die.
So one guy doesn't have to move?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. They got to just like, we could just make a new White House like 25 feet over. Like, no, this is the White House. This is America. I want that movie now.
That would be really great. That would be like the Idiocracy version of Don't Look Up, basically.
Right.
Which, again, I think, like 10 years ago, Adam Mckay, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Although we just have Idiocracy already, which is kind of, look at all these dumb people movie. Yeah. No notes. I agree. So yeah, I think Don't Look Up does the better job of actually grappling with like the terror of the end of the world. And it does have that one really great idea, or one of the great ideas to it is, we should all be screaming, but if you scream, people will laugh at you.
Yeah.
Whereas Armageddon really doesn't.
Somebody just gunned their car so much that it set off another car's alarm.
Do we power on through? And we're back. Not sure how we're going to cut around that. There's a car alarm went off. We may leave it in, or we might cut out this whole thing that I'm saying now.
Yeah.
You'll find out. So we were talking about Don't Look Up, and how it's better about the terror of seeing an asteroid and stuff.
Actually, no, just to not cut out what we just talked about, I just was thinking about how if we recorded this at our old apartment, how impossible it would be because of the street races that would happen outside of that apartment semi-regularly. There used to just be Fast and the Furious style street races that would show up on our street.
Now they happen near my apartment.
Right. You went to one, right?
Well, I didn't. I was not like invited. I don't
think you get an RSVP card, Josh. I think you just kind of get a text and you show up.
I was watching Netflix at home on like a Sunday night, and me and Jess just heard like screeching out in the street. So we went and saw that it was like just literally a block away at the intersection. So we walked over and we didn't participate. Like there was like, so it was a mob of people in a circle, a car doing donuts, like waving a giant Mexican flag, and
awesome.
and another guy behind him holding a boombox on the roof of the car, spinning around like.
Oh, it's so cool.
And then like a bunch of people right around the corner, also just like various flags and just like cheering and like screaming and like that. Though they were like the guys who were invited to it. And then there was like a ring peppered around the exterior, like the ring of Saturn, of people like me and my girlfriend and like just the neighbors who lived there who were just sort of like, does this happen? Should we call someone? Do we just watch? And so I did go to a street takeover in that sense.
If you are listening and you do have access to a street takeover invite list, please add both of us to it.
I can't promise I'll go. It's pretty hard.
I promise I will go.
It's pretty hard for me to go to like events in general these days. But like, I would like to be invited. I would like to be included.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to be able to turn something down.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was saying about. We were talking about like which movie does the asteroid better. I think Don't Look Up actually does kind of earnestly deal with the terror of the end of the world.
And Armageddon specifically doesn't care and ignores it and doesn't want the audience in the movie to know, doesn't want the populace in the movie, in the universe, to know about it because they don't want to have to deal with it. Right. It's lame.
Right. It's really just the scenes at the end where people are like hopeful and and it's really just that inspiringness of it. But like, it's really not, Armageddon's not really like about Armageddon. It's about space shit, like cool space shit.
Yeah, it's about drilling in space.
Yeah, and like explosions and fucking daughters and fucking nerds, but different senses of
fucking daughters and fucking. They almost literally fucking asteroid with their giant metal dick as a group of guys.
It does kind of look like the dick drills in Idiocracy.
Yeah,
it's not dissimilar.
Just pointed down,
right? I don't know. I mean, like I think. I'm trying. I mean, obviously, I think Failsafe is like Failsafe and Doctor Strangelove are the movies that are really good about this kind of subject.
Yeah.
Then those are still like the great ones. I think Don't Look Up is very fun. I think, like I say, it's easy to nitpick because it's trying to be so openly like.
Yeah, it's like when you try to be a message movie, you really invite yourself to criticism in a way that other movies don't. If this movie was just being super fucking silly and if it was a Will Ferrell comedy or whatever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any of these nitpicks.
Right. I agree. And then that's that's the thing about the highbrow of it is you attempt to do more, so it's harder when you fail. It's like doing a high wire act at like a higher altitude, like blindfolded.
Yeah.
It's more impressive when you pull it off, but it's very hard to pull off. And like, I can't really say that Don't Look Up accomplishes everything it sets out to do, but it sets out to do like 40 things and like,
does some of them.
Does some of them really well.
Yeah.
And also it's just really, really funny for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like we already mentioned all the freaking funny parts of it. I mean, Jonah Hill is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about Leo's performance.
Right. I think because he's the highest brow element of this. I think he pretty much exclusively does big like auteur movies.
Yeah, I mean, although he is often kind of like a winning, likable, funny guy in those movies. Like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
He's kind of impish as his thing.
But every other person in this movie sometimes does lowbrow stuff. Like even Meryl Streep will do like kind of goofy comedy sometimes. Like Cate Blanchett was in like a Marvel movie. But Leo's presence at all is like, I'm a capital A actor doing this.
True.
And I guess the question to me is, the question to you is, would this movie be better or more, or work a little better if instead of Leo at the center, who again, I think Leo's doing a really, really good performance, it was like a comedian. If it was like Jack Black or John C. Reilly.
I will say the one way in which Leo is kind of necessary is that they do make a lot out of him being handsome.
Oh, that's true.
And how it matters a lot for the plot, actually, that he is such a good-looking astronaut or astrophysicist, because that's why
he gets sucked up into this world.
That's why he becomes the talk show personality. That's why people like him.
Yeah.
Although it's funny that they don't like Jennifer Lawrence, who's also objectively beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
They give her a haircut. They give her kind of harsh bangs, and that's how they deal with that.
They give her bangs and like a nose piercing.
And also, I guess the answer is because people hate women.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the movie gets that pretty well.
Yeah. Because of. Yeah.
I guess to me, you're right. That plot works. I think, I don't know. I it's hard to say, really. I do wonder if you had like, I don't know if you had a Jack Black or you had, I don't know, Jim Carrey would probably be too broad.
I mean, so I'm thinking of what scenes would be different with a Jack Black. Him yelling at the camera would read very different.
Right. It would be a little more cartoon.
Jack Black would be a lot, because Jack Black's kind of thing is being manic and yelling.
Right.
It would be a lot funnier, maybe.
Honestly, maybe Luke Wilson would be an interesting, because like he has like
should this just be Idiocracy?
I mean, we're basically just pitching Idiocracy again.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
Like the ship of Theseus, but the ship always becomes Idiocracy.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because I do think Leo's so good, but like part of me does wonder if like the plot of like this guy, the schlubby guy getting like sucked up into this world would work better if he was mostly like a little schlubbier, or if he was like a little goofier.
Yeah, I mean, the cost is you would lose the bits about him being a hot scientist.
I mean,
and
you
the
could
benefit.
you could do Ben Stiller, who's very attractive, but is not like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, weirdly, you never think of Ben Stiller as attractive, but he is.
Yeah.
I mean, they all are.
Yeah, him and the Wilson brothers
So is
are
Luke
like
Wilson.
Yeah, they're like the secretly like smoke shows of the comedy
I mean,
world.
the Wilsons are less secretly attractive.
Right, because they went pretty mainstream. I mean, Owen Wilson was in Armageddon and like that war movie. Was Tears of the Sun? Was that it?
Oh no, it's Behind Enemy Lines.
Yeah, I think he did a more straightforward role. I think Luke Wilson knows. He was like the lead in romantic comedies, and yeah, and obviously Andrew Wilson was in Beef Supreme.
Yeah, and
was in Beef Supreme.
He's in Royal Tenenbaums. He cuts off Margot's finger.
Oh, really?
He's the Amish guy who cuts off her finger.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Freaking Andrew Wilson, what a life.
Yeah. I would kill for any of those 3-second roles.
And you famously hate actors and don't want to be one.
No.
Yes.
But I will become one at the drop of a hat because they make very good money and people like them.
And they don't have to work very hard.
No,
Sometimes.
they have an easy job that they get paid a lot for and people have to give them things all the time.
Correct. Except any actors who ever want to work with us on projects, because not you guys. We're not talking.
You're
about
you're the real
real.
MVPs. You're in there just every day putting in the work.
Yeah, it's really. People always say acting's a blue collar job.
Yeah. You are the most important person here
The most important person on the planet.
until we find a way to replace you with robots.
Right. Or with another Wilson brother.
And then when we can clone Wilsons,
Eventually,
every Wilson is just like an increasingly shitty clone of Luke Wilson. They just keep on trying.
it's like the clones in World of Tomorrow, where they just get a little bit worse. They get more ticks and stuff.
Yeah, it's like the first one, the nose got a little fucked up. The second, the funny thing is that Andrew Wilson is kind of the best looking of them.
Oh, by far, yeah.
Maybe they're all clones of Andrew Wilson.
That would make sense.
So
yeah.
okay, so Andrew Wilson is like the head. He's the
alpha. Yeah.
Yeah, the alpha clone. And then they keep on just trying to make clones of that.
Right, and like with Owen Wilson, like you got the blonde hair and the nose a little fucked up, and then Luke Wilson, I guess.
Okay, wait,
no
hold
hair.
on. Is Luke Wilson the beta or what's the third Greek letter? I don't know. Zeta.
Alpha, beta, gamma.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Kappa. I don't know. Gamma feels right.
Sure. Gamma.
Sure.
Whatever.
I think.
What are we arguing about?
I think
Who
it goes.
cares?
I think it goes Andrew, then Luke, because Luke's the more
He's like
traditional,
conventionally handsome. Yeah.
and then you go Owen, who is also quite attractive, but is like very distinctive.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where you go from there.
Well, I mean, are there more Wilsons we can find?
I don't know.
They're just locked in a basement somewhere.
Eventually, all leading men in Hollywood will be Wilsons, Skarsgårds, and Hemsworths.
And I'm okay with that.
We all are.
Yeah, I love a Skarsgård.
Because they come in so many different varieties. You got your big, tall, studly Skarsgård with Alex.
Yeah.
And then you got kind of like the weird Skarsgård, the guy who plays It.
Bill.
In It. Yes, Bill.
He's also not that weird. He's also very conventionally attractive.
Right.
In It, they put a lot of makeup on him, Josh.
Yes. But he also
He doesn't look like that giant clown.
But they could not put that makeup on Alex and not have it.
I want to see a makeup test of Alex in the makeup. All the Skarsgårds. I want to see Stellan. I want to see Stellan in the It makeup, and I want to see Alex in the It makeup, and I just want to see what the difference is. It would be a really good test of what makeup does, like how makeup works.
I would love to. Remind me, when I went to the Museum of the Moving Image as a kid. They had a thing where they would show movie scenes, and you could pick the soundtrack.
Okay.
And it would
that's fun.
It was really just like how much music effect. Like,
so you want a machine where you press a button and it just puts different actors in the It makeup,
and just different kinds of makeup and stuff. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it'd be interesting.
Well, I mean that's also an interesting thing of just how just regular stage makeup works, where how you can cover up blemishes and how different makeup works in different lighting and stuff.
Hair does so much.
Oh man, when I feel like the biggest thing that I've learned from working in production is that almost everyone's wearing a wig. You don't realize how common wigs are. I mean, it seems like the female actresses have to wear wigs more often, probably because there's a greater variation in hair length.
Yeah, and I think with women in general, like the hair often like signifies like the type of character.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a director, or you're head of makeup, like Jennifer Lawrence in Don't Look Up, obviously is like they did having that specific wig was trying to send a message like that what kind of person she is.
Yeah. Well, we were working on a pilot where the pilot was about a sex worker, and it was a really big thing that she had to have this long, beautiful hair.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of a symbolic,
She was trying to be a specific, like glamorous call girl in Vegas.
And hair gets
thing.
very sexualized in women, so it was very important for the character. But then they cast an actress who had very short hair,
Yeah.
and it just caused a panic where they were trying to figure out how to get a wig in time, whether we could do extensions. I learned so much about extensions from like being on 4 different phone calls about extensions. It was wild. It was a journey and just sheer panic the whole way through.
I will say it's something I unironically love about working in production sometimes is just that like it all turns into like, okay, who can we get? And then suddenly the thing you don't think about, like hair. It's like, oh yeah, we have this great young actress. We think she's really great. She's really like all this good stuff. And then you're like, oh wait, she has short hair and the character needs to have long hair. Like a thing you're not going to like.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're spending $8,000 on a wig.
Right.
And when you're not like the highest budget pilot in the world. Yeah. It's really interesting. When you're being the artist as a director and you're casting people based on just a performance, you don't. And then later on, when you're being kind of the line producer, you realize there's certain things that you kind of wish you cared a little bit more about more. That was like, I was on another show where it was a really low budget anthology thing. And they ended up getting a director who was from Spain. So they had to pay like $10,000 for his visa to come here. And then they were paying to put him up in a house. And then they were paying to ship his shit back and forth. And then at one point, the EIC, the executive in charge, was just like, yeah, because we couldn't find any directors in Los Angeles, right, guys? And it's just one of those things that in the moment, you're like, yeah, we need this guy. He's a great director. But then later on, you're like, maybe we could have had a slightly different one and not spent $10,000 on a visa.
With the director, makes more sense. And like, this is me being a little more cutthroat than I feel like I normally am. But like, I was looking at someone like the cost of the flights, and it'd be like an actor we'd be paying for them to fly first class from like New York to LA, which would come up to like thousands of dollars, like more, and which is like more money than maybe they were getting paid for like a 1 day of work.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we could get an actor who is 90% as good and in Los Angeles and not have to pay for that for this one line of this person who says, right this way, sir.
I know. But then the problem is that then you end up like nickel and diming yourself into having worse performances across the board. But sometimes you could spend that money on other stuff like wigs.
Right.
For your actress that you cast with short hair.
Right. It's the thing of you need to know what to nickel and dime. Like you shouldn't be spending like thousands and thousands of dollars on stuff that actually doesn't. I mean, Hollywood just has like a million examples of times where they, producer would spend $1 zillion on some shit that didn't matter and then like be like nickel and diming like some actual like effects that really mattered or an actor who really mattered.
To get on my soapbox about an issue that literally nobody cares about, it's always the script coordinators that get gone in the beginning. They always have some assistant do all the script coordinating, which is kind of massaging the drafts and stuff. We should get out of this because it's really important. Too niche.
Yeah, okay. But it is a thing that we're not saying, just like we're not saying that all movies should be 90 minutes. Just like we're not saying that all movies...
I'm saying they should pay for that privilege.
Right. And we're not saying that like you shouldn't spend money on shit that maybe doesn't matter because you're being an artist. But like sometimes you gotta like... Sometimes a movie should be 90 minutes. And sometimes you should think about the cost of things. Just like when you're putting shit together. Like hair. Like Jennifer Lawrence's hair, I guess. Is that a good pivot? Are we back on topic?
Yeah, we're back to her hair.
Back to her hair. I mean, we weren't really talking about her hair. We're just an example.
They do make a thing about... I always find it interesting how they show change in a character's looks by having them... giving them a wig and then cutting the wig off. Because they did it in Freaky Friday...
Yeah,
with because they started off with Jamie Lee Curtis having a wig, and then they just got back to Jamie Lee Curtis hair, and they did the same thing with Leo and trimming his beard.
Right,
trimming the beard was kind of a symbol of him becoming presentable for TV.
I will say I did not grasp as dramatic a change in the beard.
No, it was just a little shorter. He still looks the same.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, that's just like a weird practical thing of me personally not seeing a huge change. But like, I don't know if you.
But they comment on it. The characters comment on it.
That's true. And if you give him a big bushy beard in the beginning, that would be distracting. Or if you went completely clean shaven, then it would maybe be harder to film. Yeah, I don't know. There's weird things about beards and mustaches too in Hollywood, which is always fun.
Well, I think also. Yeah, well, beards and mustaches, I think that's the equivalent of where women have to deal with head wigs a lot. Men deal with beard wigs a lot.
Yeah,
because I think it's hard to. I mean, if you're going between different shows, it's hard to have a consistent beard.
Yeah. Like Craig Mazin on Script Notes talked about when they were doing like one of the Hangover movies, they had to and then they needed to bring, I think either they were bringing Bradley Cooper back for a Hangover reshoot, or American Hustle was bringing Bradley Cooper back for an American Hustle reshoot, but he has a beard in American Hustle and he doesn't in Hangover. And so there was like a very lengthy negotiation between agents and two studios about how long Bradley Cooper could grow his beard while he was doing the reshoots. Because it was either like
that's an important thing,
right? It was either like we needed. I think it was that he needed to leave American Hustle to do Hangover.
Well, that's kind of like, wasn't there a wasn't one of the DC movies they had to Photoshop out Henry Cavill's mustache or something?
Yeah, because they were doing reshoots of Justice League, which were not planned reshoots, I think. And he had a mustache for Mission Impossible.
Right.
And they asked Paramount if he could shave it, and Paramount was like, not a chance. Like, by contract, he has to have a mustache for this amount of time, otherwise it will cost us time.
Yeah, because it's very expensive to paint out a mustache.
And yeah, so they painted out the mustache in Justice League, and it's I think most people maybe find it less than successful. I have not seen that cut of Justice League. I've only seen the 4-hour Snyder cut.
The 4-hour mustache cut?
The 4-hour. They should have just had mustache Superman. Why not?
I like the idea of mustache Superman.
I can't think. I know there has been bearded Superman in the comics and the shows, in the animated shows. I cannot think of a mustache Superman.
You'd think it would happen in the 80s at some point.
I mean, I've talked about how it's like one of my big dreams, like ever get to write for Superman because I'm such a huge fan of the character, and I would love.
So you're gonna write mustache Superman?
Maybe that's my pitch. Like they, because they're always bringing in people to pitch on this material.
He should just look like a Tom of Finland picture where he's just like a giant jacked leather bar Superman where he's got the cop hat.
No, twink mustache Superman. That's my take. He's skinny.
Twink mustache
He's
Superman.
skinny. He's sensitive. He's got a big bushy mustache.
See, I want leather bar Superman where he's just got a big leather costume. He's got that cop hat and he's got a mustache and he's just fucking.
Here's what we get booked somehow to pitch on Superman at Warner Brothers, but we make sure that we go like back to back.
Right.
So like we'll find out either like I come in with the twink pitch and they hate it, and then you come in with the leather pitch and like, oh, that's our speed, or like in reverse.
Yeah. Or they're like, both of you get out of here.
All right. Do we have anything else to say about Asteroids? I mean, I think
apparently not, because we've been talking about twink Superman.
I will say I don't think either of these movies. Don't Look Up more so. I don't think either one of these is like the definitive like end of the world movie. Like really grappling with it. Although I think Don't Look Up was a good take on it. I don't know. I'd be down to do another Michael Bay movie, to be honest. It was kind of a weird trip.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot to say about Michael Bay.
Is Pearl Harbor trying to be highbrow?
I don't know. I've never seen Pearl Harbor.
I think I saw it in theaters. The one last thing is that we kind of mentioned it as a joke, but there was Deep Impact that came out at the same time as Armageddon, which is one of the most like clear empirical, like it's like the platonic ideal of how parallel development works.
Right. Parallel development is like basically two studios come out with a movie at the same time about the same thing.
Although apparently this is not parallel development, because in that Wikipedia page it said that they just copied it.
Yeah.
But it is parallel in that they were developed at the same time. They came out at the same time.
More often it's a case of studios have a lot of things in development all the time, and it's not so much that like one comes out and the other rips it off, so much as a lot of times it'll be like, if you're at a studio and then you hear that like, oh, that other studio is finally greenlighting their movie about cowboy hats, and you're like, oh, well, we've got that in development technically. I guess they know something we don't. Let's get ours in production soon. And
also there's just the zeitgeist, and sometimes similar movies are are on trend at the same time.
Yeah, they get pitched. People are like, oh yeah, like just because two executives at two companies both think that cowboy hats are in right now, it's not.
Yeah, But I think at the time, Deep Impact was, I don't know if it's literally more scientifically accurate, but it's definitely considered to be, definitely positions itself as the more scientifically accurate movie.
Yeah, that was their take. They were doing the highbrow lowbrow.
Yeah, because really the highbrow lowbrow that's very interesting is Deep Impact, Armageddon. Yeah. But it's just that nobody has seen Deep Impact, and I don't think it was very interesting.
I think it was more. I don't think it was super well received. I think it was, I think it's maybe more known from like the Chappelle Show joke about how like, no, it's the Paul Mooney on movie. They do a joke about how like, because the only time Hollywood would have a black president is if the world was about to end. Right. It's very funny. Paul Mooney was very funny. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I saw Deep Impact in theaters instead of Armageddon. This is my first time seeing Armageddon.
It's really? Yeah. I used to watch. I had a friend who had the Gladiator DVD, had the Armageddon DVD. Right. Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah. Actually, there was one time. Oh, no, never mind. There was one time where I saw part of Armageddon, which was we were all hanging out at a house together and we were watching a different movie, and that movie cut to commercials. So we just flipped to the next channel and it was Armageddon, wall to wall explosions, and all of us started screaming and cheering and then chanting Michael Bay.
I mean, if Michael Bay heard that, he would just be like elated. He would like ascend to heaven, like my work here is done.
That's what he wants
on Earth. That's what Armageddon is. I mean, I think Armageddon it's not his breakout. Bay's breakout was, he did those Victoria's Secret commercials and then The Rock.
Is that where he comes from?
I thought so. I thought he did commercials
I believe
first. But maybe he did the Victoria's Secret commercials after. But The Rock was his first breakout. But it feels like feel like Armageddon was like the crystallization of the Michael Bay style.
Right.
Of like big, dumb explosions, weird, loud jokes, like, bros, weird thoughts, not great opinions on women often.
Yeah. And then Transformers really just cemented his place in film history. Yeah.
Right. Like that is the work of an artist. It's a voice.
Yeah. It is a very easily distinguishable voice. It is a screaming, chaotic child's voice.
One day we should, I don't know how we'd ever, well, I guess we could do like a Transformers movie. There are plenty of highbrow robot movies, but it might be fun to just talk about just the screaming capitalistic maw of the Transformers franchise.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
You want to do a game?
Let's play a game. Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. So this is treehugger.com, the top 10 environmental films of all time.
Okay.
And to remember the people who listen at home.
Where is the happening on this? The happening's definitely on this list. I don't know which number it will be.
This game has no name. We pull up, one person pulls up a list, tries to get the other person to guess them. With Cooper, it's a little bit more of me shouting at him until he finally gets it. So we'll see.
I like how we're introducing the fact that you explain every single time that I'm bad at this game. Let's go.
Well, the thing is, last time I did that, you were very good.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You're not going to have high stakes. Okay,
right.
This movie came out in 2008. It is an animated movie.
Okay, it's not Ferngully because that's not 2008.
It largely does not take place on Earth.
WALL-E?
It's WALL-E.
Okay.
Yeah, easy enough. Number one, WALL-E, it's one of the best movies ever.
Yeah, WALL-E's great.
Fucking
I like WALL-E. I like how Eva looks like an iPod.
Yeah, it's good design.
Yeah.
And then, and
WALL-E looks like a trash can with wheels.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite parts of Star Wars.
The second one, so this movie came out in 2000.
Okay.
It was a big Oscar thing. The lead actress won an Oscar for it.
Lead actress?
It directed by Steven Soderbergh.
Oh, God.
It was a big hit.
No.
I'm trying to say, it's not like.
Wait, I know so many Soderbergh movies. What is this fucking movie?
This one is like one of his less Soderberghy ones. Like this year, also he came out. He won an Oscar this year for a different movie that's very Soderberghy. He won an Oscar for Traffic this year.
Oh, Aaron Brockovich?
Aaron Brockovich,
okay.
Yeah. Funny, you don't really think of it as an environmental movie. I guess I just see it as like a big Oscar drama thing.
Yeah, well, because it is about there's a chemical company that's tainting the water.
Yes, but
because you don't think it's not about global. I guess we always think about environmental movies as kind of about global warming now.
Yeah,
but there's other environmental problems.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like, and that one's a lot.
It's also
more
very
about,
small scale.
Yeah, it's about like these people were poisoned, and not so much like this planet was annihilated or whatever.
Yeah, and that's written by Susanna.
Yes, Susanna Grant.
She was the showrunner for a pilot we worked on, and if that pilot gets picked up, you should check it out. It's called Coercion. It's very well written. Susanna Grant's a great writer.
Yeah, loved working for her. She was awesome.
Yeah. Without a shred of irony, she is a great person, wonderful writer. Would work for her again.
Yeah, no. Like normally we just we spend so much time shitting on everyone in Hollywood. They're like, yeah, we should call it the real ones.
Yeah, she's great.
This movie, 1979. It is. I'll give you the three actors I recognize from the screenshot on the list: Jack Lemmon, Jane Fonda, and what appears to be Michael Douglas, but could be Rasputin based on the look he has.
Wait, what year is it?
1979.
Oh, God damn it. Jane Fonda, Michael Douglas.
It was...
okay, do you think I've seen this movie?
I do not. I think you may, but probably not. Okay. I'll go a little fast. It's about a nuclear meltdown at like a nuclear plant or whatever.
Ah, shit. I'm not...
Okay. You want to give...
Yeah, what is it?
It's the China Syndrome.
Oh, okay. I've heard that title. I've never heard a single thing about that movie.
Apparently, according to this list, 3 Mile Island meltdown happened 12 days after the release of this movie.
Oh,
and
interesting.
It was all kind of like wrapped up in this moment, and there's started being.
It's kind of like COVID and
Don't Look Up. Yeah, which I got to say, I'm glad I didn't do it on mic. I hope, but I keep saying "Don't Look Now" when I want to say "Don't Look Up."
Oh.
Don't Look Now, the horror movie with.
That's the joke of. Just look up, don't look up is very funny.
Oh yeah, where like they finally started doing these rallies to get people just look up, the comet's there, it's real, and then
and their slogan is "Don't look at the thing," which is still acknowledging that the thing exists,
right? Which is so dumb. It's like, why even bother? Like the official position of the Meryl Streep character is the asteroid is real, but we're gonna mine it for stuff.
Yeah,
and just because the Leo's people are saying just look up, they're like, oh, we have to do the opposite of that because that's just what we do.
That might be the most incisive satire of this movie
Yeah.
is how the slogans work, because
Yeah.
it's really funny. It is kind of how it works in real life.
Yeah, where just someone says they believe in something, and the other side is just like, well, they believe in that. I got to believe in the opposite.
Yeah, even though it's just this insane counterintuitive argument.
And the very brief Chris Evans cameo where he has the pin that has an arrow pointing up and down.
Oh,
It's like,
that
too
was-
much politics. You
That
know,
was also really funny and is totally how. I mean, that again, that is the best parody of the movie, because that's not super. It's not so specific that it feels like it's just shouting at you about one issue. It's just a thing that happens over and over and over and is recognizable and is dumb and
Right.
funny.
It is really great. And I guess I wish the movie got that sooner, because like when it finally did the don't look up, don't look down, just look up, don't look up stuff. I was like, oh, that's the movie, right? That's what it's called.
It's weird that Timothée Chalamet shows up halfway through and then is just in the rest of the movie.
He's low key kind of great.
He is really good in it. It's weird that he's religious.
It's like an interesting character.
Oh no,
beat.
it's a very interesting character. It's a good move. It's just because so much of the movie is such a specific message movie that I don't know what the message of his character is, because I don't think this movie is very pro-religious, but it does feel a little bit like it in the end.
It feels like almost like the movie's covering its bases a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
we're not laughing at like the middle America who's religious. We're laughing at people who are like intentionally fucking up the planet.
True.
And it just I feels like it's weird that, because I feel like if this movie had been made like 2 years ago, this movie, it wouldn't have been Timothée Chalamet. It would have been like a young comedian or something. And he's like a very accredited, like, it's just like, it's fun that it's him slumming.
Yeah.
And it's such a small role, it doesn't
And
distract
it's
me.
kind of the same as Leo. It's fun
Right.
it's him slumming it.
Yeah.
Oh, is there another movie?
There's a couple, we've done 3.
Oh God. How many are there? 10?
There's 10, but some of them you're going to get like immediately.
Okay, let's go.
So this one's done. So this one, they listed 2 movies that are very different. One of them came out in 1974, very famous neo-noir movie. It's about them stealing water.
Oh, Chinatown.
It's Chinatown. And then the other one is a science fiction movie. I wouldn't think of this as, you've definitely heard of this movie, you may have seen it. I wouldn't think of it as, it's about like in the future, there's this product that everyone uses and there's something up with it.
Oh, it's Soylent.
It's Soylent Green.
Is Soylent Green the name of the movie?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know why that's an environmental movie, and I don't know why it's paired with Chinatown, and it's really making me dislike this list, but I liked the idea of doing a list from treehugger.com.
All right, let's keep on going. Let's power through it.
Movie came out in 2009. Oh man, you're gonna get it in a second. Directed by a filmmaker we have technically covered on this podcast,
Technically covered.
but we have not released that episode.
Oh, it's Ridley Scott?
Nope,
Wait,
it's the other one. The right episode, wrong filmmaker.
what? There's only one. Oh, James Cameron. That's funny because we have another unreleased Ridley Scott episode.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was thinking of the Lost episode.
oh,
with
it's
Ridley
Avatar.
Scott. It's Avatar.
Okay.
Yeah. Like what clue
Ridley
could I?
Scott is so not interested in climate
No,
climate parables.
to my knowledge, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, maybe personally, but filmically not.
What clue could I have possibly given for Avatar that you wouldn't have gotten it?
There's
in
blue
an
people
instant?
because then it's either Smurfs or Avatar.
Right. It's like I don't know. Like it made a lot of money. Doesn't have a huge cultural imprint. Sequels may be coming soon. Like
Yeah.
any of the stars.
Every
even.
single individual thing about that movie is pretty distinct.
Right.
Ridley, for a movie that to watch is very boring.
Right. That is. Well, I disagree. I like that movie a lot, but I also agree.
I don't
that,
think the plot of it is very distinct
it's
at all.
it's pretty derivative.
Of Ferngully. Is Ferngully going to come up?
Ferngully is the next movie. On the
Okay.
list.
I was going to say, like, when is Ferngully going to happen?
It was literally the next movie. I scrolled up, and as you said, is Ferngully going? I'm like, I'm just going to give you this one.
All right, cool.
Ferngully, The Last Rainforest. Came out in 1992, animated movie.
Same plot as Avatar.
Yes. This next one, another double entry for some reason. One of them is a movie called Winged Migration, and you're not going to get that one
Nope.
because I don't know what that is.
Cool.
The next one you might get. It's
Fly Away Home.
also not about birds.
Okay.
Has an animal in the title. Came out 2003.
Has an animal in the title. Came out in 2003.
It's like a big drama. The lead actress, I believe, was nominated for Best Actress that year. She was very young. Director recently directed the Mulan movie, the live action Mulan.
Oh, I'm not going to know that.
I know you've heard of this movie, but I have not seen this movie.
It's not Fly Away Home.
Okay, the movie.
That has Anna Paquin in it, who is a very young actress.
The movie is the animal in the title is a whale.
Oh, Squid and the Whale?
No, not that movie's not about the environment.
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie either.
Squid and the Whale. It's about Noah Baumbach's parents getting divorced.
Oh well, okay.
No,
it's a very hostile environment to grow up in. I don't know.
It's Whale Rider.
Oh, I haven't. I know literally nothing about Whale Rider.
I only know that it may actually
Presumably
be about whales.
she rides whales.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know what the movie's about. Apparently, very good. People
Cool.
were after that movie.
All right.
Okay, 3 more. Big disaster movie.
2012.
No, but similar.
Oh, was there another one that was parallel? Was it parallel development to 2012?
It's not parallel. In fact, it was the same director as 2012.
What? Okay.
It came out. Do you want me to give you the year? 2004.
So it's not 2012. Wait. Oh God.
I know you know this. Okay, it came out in 2004. It's about it's a big disaster movie. Pretty much the same movie as 2012.
I know. There's another movie that has the exact same plot as 2012.
Want me to give you some actors?
Sure.
Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid, Emmy Rossum. I mean,
it's like on the tip of my tongue.
I know.
I know.
Okay.
It's about the world freezes, right?
Yeah, it's literally global warming destroys us all.
Yeah.
And the trailer had the giant wall
Is it
of
the
water.
day after tomorrow?
It's the day after tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how else to give you
because the
that
thing
one.
is, like, I know what the movie is.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember the title because it's pretty generic.
Yeah, I still don't understand that title. He doesn't. This never says in the movie like "I will come for you the day after tomorrow."
Yeah, maybe it just means in the future. I don't know.
I guess. I wonder if the title. I wonder if it had a meaning in the original draft by the time the movie
There's
came out.
no line in the movie that explains it.
I don't think so. I don't remember. I saw that movie 3 times in theaters because I thought it was cool as shit, and I kind of think it is, especially if you're 13.
I can't. John Cusack is in 2012, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's the one I saw.
Yeah, I have not seen all of that. I've seen clips of that one, but that's the same plot except not global warming. It's just the neutrons in the atmosphere or something.
Oh, I don't even know.
I haven't seen 2012.
Is there a weather machine?
The Weather Wizard is doing it.
Well, because there's Geostorm, which is kind of the same thing again.
Yeah, but that's
a weather
space machine.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. I mean, you'll get this. It's a documentary about global warming. It's the documentary about global warming.
March of the Penguins. Wait, what's the documentary about global warming?
Really? You haven't heard this? It is not directed by a former vice president, but stars.
The Al Gore one.
Yeah,
It's oh fuck me.
I don't think you're gonna get it.
No, I know this
you know the
movie.
movie.
It's but it's just got a generic title.
I mean, it's related to the theme of the thing. It's I mean, I don't know how to tell you this without telling you this.
I'm blanking on it. I know it's the Al Gore documentary.
An Inconvenient Truth.
Right. What a dumb title.
Well, it's inconvenient, but it's true.
I know. It's just, it is I mean, I actually haven't seen it. I'm sure it's good. I don't have a problem with this movie. I just think it's a bad title.
Okay, last one. I'm going to be a little fun with this one because it's a weird entry in this list. It came out in 1982. Very strange and surreal movie. The movie a lot of people watch when they're really high. There's no plot. It's just sort of imagery of stuff.
Oh, is it? Wait, there's no plot. It's imagery of stuff. It's not like the nature documentaries.
It's not a nature documentary. I don't think there's even any dialogue in this movie at all, from what I have seen of it.
What?
It has a very famous score by Philip Glass. There are 3 of these, but I think the first one is the one that is known. It's got a word. Then the title of the movie is in Hopi.
Okay, I don't fucking know.
Koyaanisqatsi.
Oh, I actually have no idea what
you
this
know what
is.
Koyaanisqatsi
I've never
is?
heard of this.
Really? It's what I described. It's just weird surreal imagery of the planet set to a Philip Glass score.
I remember we watched this at a friend of ours' house to a Jamie XX song.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's too specific for anybody to care, but I know what you're talking about now. I've never seen it. I wasn't going to get it.
I guess they're just saying it's a meditation on our environment, so that's why it's an environmental film. And that's the list.
Weird list.
Yeah, updated May 21, 2020.
All right.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought that was a weird one. Thought it might be fun.
Yeah.
Let's do some recs and let's get out of here.
Yep.
Cooper, do you?
I have forgotten to pick a rec once again. Let me think about it.
It'd be really fun if you were I don't know if you could plan to not do a thing, but it'd be fun if that's what you were doing.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not planning it. I just do this every time. Okay.
You're thinking?
Tell us, Josh.
You want me to go? Okay. My rec is I've been playing this video game called Wildermyth recently. By recently, I mean I bought it 2 days ago. Very interesting. It's like a kind of like a top down. It's meant to like be kind of like tabletop games. It's like an RPG, but it's like procedurally generated, so it's different every time. And like the actions you take like really do affect because like you go over time. It's like your characters age, but then they have kids and you can play as them. And if they die, like other people reference them as like an inspiration. It kind of like procedurally generates like this whole legacy of all your characters and stuff, which is kind of fun. So I like games that are weird and interesting, or I like games that are like dumb and loud like Rocket League or UFC. So this is on the other side of it.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. An artist I like is Chris Burden. He's like a performance artist. If you've ever been to LACMA in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, there's this grid of lampposts out front that's an art piece. It's called Urban Light, and it's kind of known as just a place where Instagrammers will take photos, or people will take pretty photos for Instagram because it's a very nice...
It's a good backdrop, yeah.
It's a good backdrop. It's made by this artist called Chris Burden, and the funny thing about him is that in the 70s, he was known for doing these very intense performance art pieces that often involve self-harm. Like he famously was the one, he had his friend shoot him in the shoulder with a .22 rifle. That was a piece of his. There's another one where he has his hands tied behind his back and he's crawling through glass. And then he bought like a 5-second ad on national TV and played that on that. So at like midnight for 5 seconds, just played this clip of him crawling through glass and just freaked out a bunch of people. So it's just really funny to think of how this guy who made this work of art later on in his career, he got more normal, more interested in mechanical objects as opposed to performance art.
Yeah.
Like he made a solar powered car at one point. That was a piece of his. So he just kind of got more interested in different things.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to think of this thing that is a backdrop for a lot of pretty Instagram photos. It was created by this man who in the 70s got shot in the shoulder and crawled through glass and set himself on fire and did all this crazy stuff. So check him out. He's really cool.
Yeah. All right. That's all we got for now.
All right.
Goodbye.
Oh,
Wait. God damn it. How do I keep forgetting?
Don't leave.
Don't leave.
Rate.
Stay and listen.
Yeah, keep on. We're going to keep on talking so you can rate, review, and subscribe while we're talking right now.
Give us good ratings, review us, subscribe, and listen to our podcast.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram. HBLB Podcast.
You can follow us on Twitter. We don't really tweet that much yet, but we will.
Yeah, and then on the Instagram we're kind of doing a fun thing now where on Mondays we're going to have a teaser poster where hopefully our users will kind of get to guess in the comments what the movies are going to be. Then we'll reveal on Tuesdays, and then Friday we'll release new episodes.
Yeah. Now, goodbye forever.
Bye forever.